Welcome to the Nutty Nook Book Club. We're all super excited, not tired at all, and this book took us 2 months to get through. So this was the March pick, and it's May now, right? Is it May?
It's Cinco de Mayo.
Oh yeah, it is. That's why we went to Moe's for dinner. Anyway, I'm Wolfkinz. That is Suriname. That over there is Bloomworld. How are you all doing today? Don't all speak at
Eh,
once. Oh,
Fantastic.
Great.
y'all are
I did just come off of a 6, 7, maybe closer to 8-hour readathon with my friend.
wow.
So I've read a lot, but it's also made me really sleepy because all I've done
Sure.
has been cozy and cuddled
Cozy.
up. Yeah.
With books like What the River Knows, right?
No.
Okay.
That was read angrily in my car via audiobook.
Oh wow. Oh wow. No spoilers there. So let's go ahead and get into it as we do every month. I usually put you on the spot, Bloomerl. Do you want to give the recap of what the overall plot of the book was, or
So,
I usually just make
I
you do it?
yeah,
You're
I
just so
guess I can
detail
do it.
oriented.
Um, hold on.
Hey,
So
it focused. It focused that time.
Yeah, right off the bat.
This is what the book is that we are not supportive of. Also, I
Ready to
think I should
leave.
have my choices revoked because I all of the book discords that I'm in were like, we need to read this book. It was sucked.
Whoa.
And I really like historical stuff.
We don't even
Um,
not even get to the end of it before we give our
sorry.
ratings.
So, this book is about a 17-year-old, 16-year-old who lived in the 19th century. She was born and raised in Buenos Aires, but her parents were archaeologists, so they spent about half of their time in Egypt. And before you think, oh, hey, that sounds really cool, it really was not. The main character's name is Inez, and as you will learn once we get into the story, different parts of Inez have touched us in different ways, and not all good. Anyways, so Inez really wanted to go to Egypt with her
Show us on the
parents, and
book where Inez touched you, please.
she did
Show
not.
me.
She didn't even touch my brain. She was awful.
Oh, Blue's not holding
Anyways,
back today.
I am not. She really wanted to go to Egypt, and every time she asked her parents said no. Well, she gets a letter from her uncle, who's now her guardian, saying that both of her parents have passed away. So she's like, okay, well, now they can't stop me, so I'm gonna go to Egypt on my own. And of course, you would think that hijinks happens. And I guess in some way it does, but not in the great way that you would think. Um, this book is part of a series, and so you have a lot of world building. However, I don't think you need as much world building as this author gave us. That's just my 2 cents. Um, but anyways, that's the very vague synopsis that I'm going to stop prattling on about. And
So,
as you've heard, my opinion has come through.
okay, we all know. Let's just not bury the lead. Suriname, did you enjoy the book? Because Bloomer
There
obviously did not.
there were parts I didn't mind.
Okay.
Overarching, no. Like when I
Yeah.
read the second one, no.
Yeah. So I'll just expand a little bit on what you were saying with the with the synopsis because yeah, you say you expect hijinks would happen, but for the most part, this audio book, I listened to an audiobook was 18 hours. Not a lot happened
Mhm.
in the 18 hours. And I think it's exactly what you said. This is the beginning of a series. I don't know how many books there's supposed to be, but I feel like she was laying a foundation and there were parts of the foundation that were laid that made me interested in what might come. But after
Mhm.
18 hours, I was ready for the book to be over. Like I was just kind of done
Well, it's
by the end.
also it wasn't like this was set in like a fantastical new land. This is set in just Egypt. That is
Yeah.
already an established place that exists. With like the barest hint of magic just to make it a YA
The
magical
barest,
realism.
yeah.
So I don't feel like you needed to lay that much world building for real life.
Yeah.
This is like You're Afraid of Salt Bay magic.
Yeah, it's
Like,
just
So
a sprinkle.
I'll expand. So the way that magic works in this is some objects are imbued with magic. And this magic diminishes the more people come in contact with any particular item, right? Which I did find kind of an interesting concept. So, right in the very beginning, she receives a letter from her father with a ring, and she can feel the magic off the ring. And when she holds it, she gets uh, visions or glimpses of like Cleopatra, right? Because the whole purpose that they were doing in Egypt was to search for the final resting place of Cleopatra. And before, do either of you know, have they not found her in real life, or have they? I don't know, and I kept meaning to look that up,
I don't know.
but
I want to say
didn't.
they have, but like,
Yeah,
I want to say yes, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, I don't know either, and I kept meaning to look it up, and just I didn't. But so
according to Google,
I was about
the tomb itself remains elusive, but the temple
Oh.
excavations continue, with additional sites below the surface identified using ground-penetrating radar in 2011.
Where is the temple? Do you know? Is it on the island this book
Egypt?
take place on?
I don't know. I also looked up Goodreads, like the series on Goodreads, and it's
Yep.
only a duology. So
Oh, okay.
for 18 hours of an audiobook, which I also did, 16 hours probably could have been cut.
There was
I mean,
a lot.
like, she could have successfully done a duology with
One book.
half of the description that she put in.
Yeah.
And way more hijinks. And actually made you, like a character.
That was
Yeah.
my biggest problem with the book, is I hated every character. Now, like, except for Inez. I mean, I liked her fine. But every character in her orbit just made me mad. Like, constantly made me mad. And, yeah, like, her parents are the worst parents in the world. They leave her for 6 months at a time and just say, "Bye, see ya later. We'll see you at Christmas." No, they won't. They always miss Christmas and her birthday,
They miss
right?
Christmas. Yeah.
Are they home for her birthday? They always miss
No.
Christmas.
Yeah.
They're never there for her birthday.
It's just such BS. Like, the worst parents in the world. And I don't know. What were you going to say, Suriname?
It's just like, so another, I don't know if we mentioned this in the synopsis, but one of the reasons she goes to Egypt is to find out what happened to her parents, because all she knows is that they kind of wandered into the desert and never came back.
Right.
And then through some random, once she gets to the excavation site with her uncle, her mother randomly shows back up again. And
Spoiler!
I mean, we do these at the end of the book club. Everyone's supposed to have read it by now.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure, it's not a spoiler for us, but it's a spoiler for the people who are listening, who maybe haven't read the book.
We talk about the spoilers every time.
I'll put spoilers.
Okay, sure.
We
But
do
I'm just
usually
saying,
preface them, though. Good point.
Insert spoiler here.
If you're watching this and you haven't read the book, then it's also as big of a waste of a time as the book was. I don't know why you would watch a podcast about a shitty book that you haven't actually read.
Oh,
but
God.
The reason I don't like Inez is because she's so stupid.
Okay, why do you say that?
Because, spoiler, her mother's plot was literally like, your uncle's going to steal artifacts. So to prevent him from doing that, steal these artifacts for me.
Okay.
And she's like, okay.
That, yes. Okay, up until then, I didn't think she was that dumb. I actually thought she was very resourceful and, strong-willed. But then, yeah, so her mother, like you said, randomly shows up and then spins her this tale about your uncle's actually trying to steal all this stuff. And like Suriname said, then she just helps her mom smuggle stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
And,
she's
as
like,
the
I
reader,
didn't know. And I'm like...
And as the reader, you're like, it's so obvious. And it's just frustrating.
Very and it's also the whole her mother plot being like evil was just out of left field.
Okay, here's the other thing. Oh, sorry, Bloomer, you look like you have something you want to put in there.
I was just gonna say, playing devil's advocate for Inez, she's not as stupid as you think because she's only stealing replicas. The only true value item that she accidentally stole, which I still don't think that that was an accident, was that blue asp
Oh yeah,
statue.
yeah,
Mhm.
Everything else was just replicas that were in the tomb because for some ridiculous reason, Egyptians had to have like multiples of the same things buried with their people.
yeah. Well, that's how she got
So,
away with it, right? Because
Mhm.
they
yeah.
weren't really checking the duplicates.
And in that vein, she was kind of smart. But I do think that it's important to note that her uncle, the main character Wit, and her mom all wanted one piece of papyrus that was lost in this tomb that's supposed to,
And
like,
we never found it, right? Throughout the whole book,
no,
no
it
one
was
finds
never
it.
found. No, it was never
Sh
found.
she gets a glimpse of it in one of her visions from touching a magical object, right? Like, she
Yes.
sees
That,
them riding it,
yeah,
and that's the only thing we see from it?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, maybe not stupid. She does go about her thievery smart, but so gullible. I mean, her mom shows
That's
up,
the thing, is that she is, like, just like, constantly just, like, making
so
decisions
gullible.
that yeah.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand. Now, I will say another character that frustrated the crap out of me was her uncle because good lord, it was you couldn't go 3 pages without him being like, "You gotta go home. You gotta go home."
Yes.
After 14 hours, she's already at the dig site. Get over it. She's there.
Mhm.
You let her calm. Shush.
Yep.
Okay? And then also, yes, I think Inez was gullible and a little dumb when she just bought everything her mom told her. But also her uncle could have told her something, for God's
Right.
sakes. Like, he literally
Yeah, he
kept
was so
secrets for
secretive
no
about
reason.
for nothing.
All of his secrets made him look super guilty, kinda made him look like he did have something to
Mhm.
do with killing his brother-in-law, right?
Mhm.
But, like, he could have told her anything. He could have told her about her mother. I mean, what I don't know. It
Yeah,
just
she's so gullible, he coulda told her anything.
yeah.
He did at one point. He kinda did. 'Cause don't you remember, like, he was talking and he was like, "I remember when she was younger and she used to play all these tricks on me."
Yeah.
And then it was like, "Oh, I must stop talking about my life." So,
Yeah.
like, he started to, and then he was just like, "Okay, stop."
Yeah,
And
I don't
then,
know
like, he
what
was
the
surprised that
flaws
his
were.
that the mom came back. And the thing that bothered me about her uncle was, as you said, he spent the entire book trying to get her to go home. Once she was kidnapped, why did he go after her?
Yeah, he was a
I
very
mean,
his motivations were weird, and I got the feeling that he cared about her, but just didn't wanna have anything to do with her. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
think, though, he knew that she had a touch of what her dad had, which was the ability to, like, sense the magical artifacts. Because
but
not everyone can.
he didn't really even know that her dad could do that. Because it was after he got hurt that he found out that the dad sent her a ring.
yeah, the dad was dead at that point, and we
No,
should
I know.
say, by the end of the book, we still don't know if the dad's dead or not, for real.
But
He probably is not.
the author has like foreshadowed the fact that the mom killed the dad.
Mhm.
But the author spent so much time trying to convince us that he was dead, it makes me think he's not.
Well, yeah, I don't
Does that
think
make
he's
sense?
dead.
I mean, it's just she spent too much time,
Well,
I think,
because
trying to
she
convince
had that
us.
letter or something, it was like, "Whatever happens, don't stop looking for me."
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so there's that. But, so her uncle drove me nuts, just absolutely drove me nuts, and I do think that the thing that happened with her mom could have been avoided if he would have just given her any piece of information.
Mhm.
Any piece of information, right? And
Right.
then, I don't know, then she finds that letter that her mom planted that kind of is trying to incriminate her uncle, and she kinda keeps all that to herself. Nobody talks. None
Mhm.
of the characters in this book talk to one another in one
Mm-mm.
conversation, and it's frustrating for Inez because no one's telling her anything. But it was frustrating for the reader because 'cause I'm like, "Dude, it's been 16 hours. Give me some information."
Mhm.
Everyone's still keeping secrets at the end of this book.
Mhm.
Oh,
And I had started reading it, and I actually preferred reading it a lot more. There's, like, pictures of her sketches and stuff in it that I thought was pretty cool,
oh,
Yeah,
That would have
like
been nice.
it shows like her sketch of Wit and some of her sketches of the hieroglyphs, which that was pretty cool.
Oh, that is
Because
neat.
of the time crunch, because I was having a hard time getting through it, I switched to the audiobook, and I had to put it on 1.5 speed, first of all, because and I've listened to a lot of like Spanish and Latin books. Like I love the accent. It sounded like I was listening to a telenovela. I don't know if it was just the YA of it, but everything was so dramatized that like I couldn't stand it. And I think that made me not like Inez too, because she's like, oh, he touched my hand, and I'm like,
Yeah, she did.
okay. It just like everything was so like.
This is the perfect place
But
for my question. Did you or did you not pick up on the fact that they overused the word belly?
I did as soon as you brought it up to me, because I was maybe like 40 pages in the book when you mentioned that.
Okay.
Every time she said it, it made my skin crawl.
It's a lot, though, isn't it?
It's a lot.
She
It's a
says
lot.
it a lot. And as
My
the
belly.
audiobook, she always goes, belly. And I'm like,
Yes.
stop it. Like,
Yes. In my belly.
she feels everything in her belly. Like, leave it
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. Once you pointed it out to me, every time
Sorry.
I heard it, I was like,
I
oh, I
ruined it
hate
for you.
it. But
Okay.
she says it a lot.
She does. That's like her favorite word. I am going to jump on your telenovela bandwagon and just say, like, I have no idea why the author decided to kill her cousin.
Okay, let's talk about
Spoiler.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
there's
come
another
on.
spoiler.
Come on.
Spoiler coming.
Okay.
You give her crap for this?
Yeah.
That was the biggest spoiler in the book. All right, so let's talk about that. I know we're jumping all over the place, but we kind of covered all the important stuff. You meet her cousin at the very beginning of this book, very briefly, and then she's not in the book at all until like towards the end, audiobook wise, it's the last, I'd say 4 hours, right? Pretty much everything else has been wrapped up. It's almost like a second sub story. Almost everything else has been wrapped up. And then she gets a letter that says her sister's gone missing. Or her cousin.
Her cousin.
Basically
yeah.
her sister, but her cousin. Then she goes back, and because she's going to go back to, wait, where are they from?
Buenos Aires.
Argentina. Okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
forgot. But when she gets back to Cairo, her cousin's there. Like, hey, I made the same trip. Hey, it was great. So she shows up, and by the way, most interesting character in the book. Most likable character. I mean, that's just it. And then she's there for audiobook time, hour and a half maybe. Gets kidnapped because they think that she is Inez. Or no, because her mom, Inez's mom, threw her to the wolves, right? Didn't she kind of put them on her scent? So her mom basically traded her cousin in so Inez could get out, which that was super evil. And then, so Inez, of course, goes after her, and long story short, her cousin does get up being shot execution style right in front of her. And it struck me as very, you read The Hunger Games, right? Spoilers for The Hunger Games here. You know how like they just kind of bring in Primrose at the very end to kill her
Just
for
to
shot
kill her?
failure? That is exactly what this felt
That's
like.
exactly what it was.
But worse. Like it was just, it was gut-wrenching. Like I hated that part, but it seemed so unnecessary.
It was unnecessary, and I don't feel like it does anything to forward the plot in any way.
Yeah,
like I didn't
either.
think that it really did anything.
Yeah, it was
And-
sad, gut-wrenching, but just, I don't feel like it really
unnecessary.
pushed things forward.
And I also want to point out, everything in this book is either something's going on with like the British Museum of Antiquities, so Britain. Something's going on with Egypt, whatever their stuff is. And then this third party American is the one that comes in and kills the cousin.
I still don't really know who he was.
Yeah, I don't know who.
And
it was just some random dude that she'd met one time. Like he was like a background character. He like went to lunch with
and
her.
they acted like, oh, it's him, and I'm like, I don't know who this is.
Yeah, it's like the guy that comes in and you're like,
he was mentioned in like chapter 4 because she gets to Egypt and this American approaches her when she's in the lobby of the hotel, and he's like, can I buy you dinner? And she goes, no, I'm having dinner with my uncle. And then he goes, okay, maybe another time. And then there's nothing the rest of the time. You
Mhm.
have all of these other people from all of these other countries of interest, and then all of a sudden the American comes in and kills somebody.
Yeah, it made
Like,
no sense to me. It would
Mhm.
have been
really?
better if it was the dude that stole her ring on the trip over. That was the
Agreed.
one shenanigan or hijink, because on the way over,
Mhm.
she has the ring from her dad, and this one dude, he's British, right? He
Yeah.
he takes it from her and then puts on this big show for the train conductor to convince her that it was his ring. So he just
Mhm.
makes off with it. That would have made more sense because yeah,
Right.
it was a background character. If I didn't even remember his name. You know, I think she had to
Right.
remind me that, "Oh, that was the dude that I went to lunch with." I was like, "Okay, that means that he
Right.
wasn't impactful to my, the plot up until this point."
And
And
I'll
going back,
also go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm about to jump. I'm about to jump. So
Okay.
Yeah, let's
No,
finish this real quick.
going back to the dude on the train, as soon as that scene happened, I spent the entire book mad.
I did
I
too.
wanted I wanted to go and find the dude and punch him
Yeah.
because I was like, she's not being hysterical, number 1.
Mhm.
Number
Mhm.
2, what gives you the right to be such a dick? I mean, I
Yeah.
understand that we're still in the 1800s and like men are superior, which they never were. Sorry, honey.
Period.
But like
I'm not arguing. So, I will say, I know you wanna switch, but I will say this. That was when the book went off the rails for me, and that's very early on. But it was that point of the book where I wasn't enjoying it. I was spending most of my time frustrated. And
Just
it
trying to
was
get to the end.
well, and it wasn't even like I didn't think the writing was bad, anything like that, but just
Right.
everything that was happening frustrated me. Like,
Mhm.
it wasn't an enjoyable read. It was the entire time and that may have been intentional on the author's part, and if that was the case, then well done, because Inez spends the whole book frustrated. I didn't want to. Like,
Right.
every character she comes in contact with just frustrates me more and more and more, and it was from that train scene on, I would put the audiobook on and then just be like it put me in a bad mood sometimes. And again, not
Mhm.
because, like, the writing was bad or anything like that, but just the plot and what was happening put me in a bad mood.
Mhm.
Alright,
I get that.
you can switch.
So, speaking of bad mood, I wanna switch and talk about wit because
Alright,
we
let's talk
haven't
about
really
Wit.
talked about wit.
We've dropped that
Okay?
name a bunch of times, but let's talk about who he is and the bullshit that was all of that.
Yeah, so he is essentially her uncle's, like, lapdog. Like, he's pretty much just his errand boy that, like, kind of does the roughing up for him.
Yeah, more than that, he's like an enforcer a little bit too,
he's the
like,
Right.
fixer.
he's the
He
fixer,
comes in
that's the
he
word.
comes in and he fixes whatever the problem is.
Right. Right. So he's like his muscle essentially.
Yeah.
And they kind of have a back and forth of because that's the person that her uncle sent to pick her up from the train station and pretty much put her back on the train. And
Now,
she runs away from
let
him.
me interrupt you right there. That scene, though, is actually very fun.
I
I
liked
do
that.
like the scene when he shows up and tries to put her back on, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not going." And he takes her luggage, and she's like, "Fine, I don't need my luggage," and just leaves him stranded with all of her
Yeah.
luggage. That scene was fun. I did enjoy that interaction between the two of them. Continue.
And like for most of the book I didn't mind Wit. Like he was okay. And like I mean, especially like it just felt like he had a personality when a lot of characters didn't. But
Yeah.
he again contributed a lot of the frustration of like miscommunication and not telling. He randomly drops like halfway through the book that he's engaged. Just
Yeah.
like
I feel like
sprinkles
there were
that.
hints of that a little bit earlier, but because he mentions, like, "There's only one woman I'm supposed to be thinking about back in England,"
Right.
or whatever. But yeah,
But
that comes late where he finally tells
this
her.
is a very specific gripe. Okay.
Okay.
So the whole book is like, I can't call you Inez because that's not proper, blah, 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 blah. He finally starts to kind of drop it every now and then because they get close. They get locked in this tomb together at the end, right?
Yeah.
And not only does he kiss her, he is like groping her. He's like grabbing her breast. And I'm like, oh, so calling her by her first name is inappropriate. But the minute that you're alone in the dark corridor, you're just literally filling her up.
I do think that was when they thought they were going to die. So
but
I think,
it was such a switch.
well, I mean, okay, I will say, especially when you get in his scenes, he wanted her bad. So it wasn't a switch. He finally let himself do it, but there was no secret that he wanted her bad in this book.
But if you look at it from her perspective, you know what I mean?
Sure. From her perspective,
yeah.
Sure.
It just felt like...
That's true, because she didn't get to see inside his head. What were you going to say, Blue? Oh, sorry. I just know Blue just meant to put something in there.
No, I'm just agreeing.
Oh.
But I also, so while we're talking about Whit, I have a problem with him. Because he's the person who does unnecessary stuff too. So like, he drops this information that he's like a lord or something, and he's running away from his responsibilities. All right, fine. He's also running away from the fact that he's engaged to a woman he doesn't want to be engaged to, and she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Okay, fine. I'm fine with both of those things. But then he's like the one who goes into like a shady part of like Cairo, and then is like doing a deal with somebody, and then he just kills him.
What was up with that?
Yeah, I didn't
and
understand.
He's fine.
That
and then he just turns around
sense.
and leaves. And it's like, what was the entire point of the time when you introduce this pointless character, let's face it, to him killing this character? Because he's got no moral qualms after that. Like, it's not like he's talking to Inez and he... I mean, that doesn't matter.
Was that his backstory, his soldier that was dishonorably discharged?
Yeah.
What was he dishonorably discharged for, though? Do you remember?
I zoned out during that part.
It did tell us it was because he was deployed to Cairo, and there was stuff that he still wanted to wrap up, and nobody would let him, and so he was just like, I think he like broke rank.
Oh, right. So yeah, I mean,
like,
the cold-blooded murder with no remorse. What was going on with that? But here's the other thing. I don't remember what the circumstances around this were, but he goes into that place. He pays the guy the money. Then something happens. He shoots the guy and leaves the money. I mean, the guy doesn't need the money anymore. He just shot him. Somehow you get out, even though you just killed the big boss of this place, right? You'd think that he probably had guards, but did Whit murder his way out there? I don't know. It didn't say. But I just don't understand. I don't understand what the point of any of that scene was, except to kind of give us some insight into the fact that Whit doesn't have any qualms murdering somebody. I don't know. I was very confused by that part.
But then that aspect of his personality doesn't come back into play the rest of the book. Like, he fights to try and, like, because, I mean, Inez and her cousin get kidnapped. So he tries to fight Inez's kidnappers to save him. Or, I'm sorry, to save her. And then he fails. And then it's the uncle that's doing the shooting.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, the entire dynamic between Whit and other cast members is just, it's weird. It's a weird thing. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that you were talking about with like with Inez feeling stuff in her belly always goes back to him.
Yeah, I mean, because it's
he
always
looked at
like
me. I fluttered in my belly.
Yeah. Yeah,
that
it's
means
always something
horny.
Oh, she definitely was. Definitely was horny.
That's YA for horny.
Belly in my belly. I don't read enough YA, I guess, or at least not YA with horniness.
I think, I don't know if it's just the book, but this kind of made me realize I'm getting too old for YA unless it's really good YA. Like,
sure. I mean,
some
you
of
are
my favorite
almost
books.
30.
That's unnecessary. But like, there are some really good YA books out there.
That's
but
true.
Like, when the main character is so naive that you register her like this is a child.
Yeah.
Like, there are some 17-year-olds in YA that are like badass, and you like they could be 24.
Yeah.
But like to have a 17-year-old that acts like a 15-year-old makes it like
it makes it
I'm
hard
too
for
old
me to read
this.
too. Yeah, I need, if it's going to be YA, what stinks is because like a lot of the YA, like you said, there are some really good YA out there, and I think I don't mean to bring this up twice. I really liked Hunger Games, and I felt like Katniss, while a 17 or 15-year-old, however old she was, she never acted super naive. She was smart. She was cunning. She murdered people. Like it was a
Right.
good. But yeah, in this book, I'm like, man, this girl was supposed to be almost 20, right? And still, I was like, you don't know anything. Like,
Right.
I cannot believe she believed her mom that quick.
Right. Exactly.
And
I
then it
mean,
was
like,
obvious when her mom. So she meets up with her mom too, and then her mom ditches her, and that's obvious too because her mom's like, "Hey, go check that up on the hill over there. Just go look over there
yeah,
for
go
a
look for
minute.
my purse over there. I
We'll
think I
be back."
dropped
Yeah,
it.
it was. I'm
Just
sitting here like,
ignorant. Literally.
this is driving me nuts.
Just absolute ignorance.
And then Wit, back to him on the other hand. So he's mid to early 20s, right? And is, for lack of a better word, the romantic interest of this book. But as you alluded to, they only kiss like one time. No, they kiss on a balcony or something.
They like brush lips.
Oh,
It's
yes.
very
So
gentle.
jazzed. It was weird to me, and because I actually talked about this with Blue, we've kind of already established we have two rating systems on this show, one for the book and one for the sex. We can't even do that here because this book was so sexless. So sexless.
And it's like, I don't really need sex in my YA because I get it. But
Sure.
like, I need a kiss that doesn't make me feel gross. Like the kiss at the end made me feel gross.
Did it make you feel gross? Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't like the kiss in the tomb. It made me feel weird.
Oh, look, a dead body. Does that do anything for you?
Yeah. Let me touch your nipple.
Then we can touch hers. Her mummified nipple.
So I was actually okay
that
with
joke
the fact
made me uncomfortable.
I was okay with the fact that there was no sex because of the time, like because it was that historical fiction piece. I was like, okay, at least she's got something right. You know, like
Right.
Sure.
there's that piece and I'm fine with that. But like I don't know. I just felt confused by the whole book. Like she wanted to talk about one thing but then spent all of her focus over here talking about something else, and then the title I feel like is a complete like bait and switch.
What does the river
Because
know?
she's
Yeah.
like, what
The
the
river's
river knows.
mentioned
I'm like, she falls into the river one time.
one time.
And then, like, he's trying to get her on a boat on an ocean. Like, the river
Yeah.
doesn't know anything at this point because this book doesn't talk about what the river
What the
knows.
sand knows would have been a better title.
Exactly, because the river, I mean, they weren't lost in the river, like what the desert knows or something like that. Like, I mean, sure, most of it takes place on the Nile, but as far as like anything that's going on, the Nile plays no part. You
Yeah.
know, it's not like the Nile is where all these secrets are being or kept or
Right.
whatever. It's the dig sites or the Cairo elite or whatever. So yeah,
Also,
I was confused by the title.
So we get to the end of the book, and it's a chapter from Wit, and he's
No,
opening.
It's an epilogue.
Yes,
right?
the epilogue.
And it's not him. It's somebody else got a letter from Wit. Wit's not the one that opens the letter. He's the one that sent the letter.
Right.
Continue.
And it pretty much says Inez fell for it or something.
Yeah, or she bought it or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And I guess that was the hook to try to get you to read the second book.
Yeah. So basically, and whoever opens this letter is on their way to Egypt with a bunch of other people on this boat. And the implication being that everything Wit had done was in order to trick Inez. And then he was bringing in these other people. But I know you're not supposed to know. It's a cliffhanger.
Right.
But what? Like, what was he doing? Like, and I didn't, even from his, you get the chapters from his perspective. He's not in love, but he was falling for this girl. Like, we know that as readers. So what is going on?
Right.
What? I don't know.
And that's why you're supposed to be like, "Oh, I have to know," and I just don't care.
The epilogue was the most interesting part. The epilogue was
Yeah, I was
definitely
like,
the most
"Oh, you're
interesting
gonna
part.
be interesting now? I don't care."
The last 2
So,
hours. The last 2 hours were, like, actually interesting to me.
yes. Spoiler alert is coming. Wit proposes to Inez.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
the book ends, and then you get the letter. So is it like, what did she fall for? Did she fall for the fact that he proposed? Did she fall for the fact that Wit has feelings for her? Did she fall, like, what did she fall for?
Is he
And
in
who
on
do
it
you,
with her mom?
like,
Did she fall for that? Because she definitely fell for that.
I don't think it's the mom. I feel like it's the dad.
Oh. But what?
So I feel like he's working for the dad, and Inez fell for the fact that her mom is the evil one. I don't know. But, like, it just,
Oh.
like,
Yeah. Now,
4
why did he...
hours of this book could have started, like, you could have cut 12 hours, but the last 4 hours in the middle still had so much story to tell. I just finished an audiobook that was 3 hours and 47 minutes, not even 4, and I had character introduction, character development, crazy stuff that was going on, and then a resolution. Like,
I feel like this book was trying to do too much. Too much, and they kind of took too long to do it. Yeah, to your point, in the middle, there's they go down the Nile. She sneaks on the boat. It's just she spends too much time trying not to be sent home. I mean, she has to thwart 4 or 5 different attempts. 1 or 2 would have been enough. But like she has to constantly keep thwarting attempts to be sent home, and it's like, okay, I get it. I don't want her there. I get it. Let's move on. But yeah, I feel like it just drug. It definitely drug in the middle. It picks up at the end, unnecessary murder of her cousin, but at least that was like action. At least it was interesting, you know? And then the cliffhanger, the way that it ends, decent cliffhanger. But at that point, they had just lost my interest. By the time we got to, I wasn't as invested as I should have been by that point because I stopped caring.
Right,
Before
exactly.
then.
Yeah. And it's like if I had gotten, like you said, if there had been like 5 hours cut out of it and I'd gone to that end, I'd be like, oh, I'd probably listen to the second one,
Yeah.
just like leisurely, but like, I just don't care.
Well, speaking of
I just can't hear that woman's voice again.
I thought she did a good job as I mean, I see what you're saying, I guess, with the telenovela thing. I didn't think about it, but I actually thought the audiobook reader was doing a pretty good job. I just didn't like how she said Belly. That's the only thing. It's just the emphasis she put on it every time. Here's another problem I had with the book is the main conflict of the book and the evil act is stealing these artifacts that have been buried underground for hundreds and thousands of years, or not, yeah, hundreds and hundreds of years that no one's talked to, and then selling them. I didn't care. I just didn't care. I'm like, oh no, people found stuff and sold it.
Is that like you're
Those
digging it up,
evil.
you're uncovering it, and
I
then
know, I
you're
just
like,
didn't care.
oh,
I just
but
didn't
how
care.
dare anybody else look for this?
Well, and I said this to Blue. It was, it just framed a little differently. The people that are doing the grave robbing are the heroes. I mean, think about how many different stories there are about, finding buried treasure. The entire Uncharted video game series, right? Like they go in, find Drake's fortune, and now they're all rich. Like, and they're the heroes. They're cool. But in this one, it's like, she wants to sell that plate. How could she dare sell that plate? And I'm like, I don't
And that's the thing.
care.
I think
I
if
just
she had
didn't care.
focused more of like magic and made that a bigger emphasis than just like archaeology, I maybe have cared.
Yeah,
I maybe
think
would have been
so.
more interested, but like it just didn't catch me. I didn't care. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about
Yeah.
the plot. I
Well-
just was reading it to get through it.
Or just the danger of what could be happening. Like, she makes it real with the danger with her cousin in the end, but it's at the end. Like up until then, there's no, oh, people are killing for this. Oh
Right.
no, these evil people want to take these artifacts and sell them. And I'm like, there are bigger problems in the world. And I get it, And the heroes of the story wanted that to stay in Egypt. And yes, I mean, I understand that. Don't
Mhm.
flame me out, but like just the evilness of the book, just and they were so offended, especially like when they find out, like you said, Blue, all she did was take duplicates, and her mom went to sell those duplicates, and her uncle is so mad he can never forgive her, and even tells her, "I will never forgive you for this," even though he didn't even notice they were missing. Right? He didn't even notice they were missing. No one else in the world noticed they were missing. So I'm not condoning grave robbing, but what I'm saying is I didn't care. It didn't
Pro grave
seem like the
robbery.
biggest deal in the world to me. Like I just did not buy in to the fact that that was the worst thing that could be happening. Is that dumb?
Right. No, it's not dumb. It goes back to just like I can forgive bad plot for good characters. I can forgive bad characters for really interesting plot, really cool world building. When you don't have either, I can't do it.
Yeah. Blue.
I mean, I agree with Suriname. Like, I like historical fiction. I enjoy reading that, and I understand like not everybody's gonna have a happy ending, and I understand that there are parts that are gonna be a little bit slower, but you have an opportunity to change how you tell a story that nobody else like Cleopatra's tomb is not found. Like you have an opportunity to make it interesting and to
Mhm.
inspire other readers to dig into it. I mean, this is a YA thing. And because it's YA, it should have been easy to read. And instead, this was as hard as some of the World War II books that I read.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
they're heavy. I mean, like, I can get through somebody's autobiography easier than I got through this book. And I did it as an audiobook.
Yeah.
But, like, I couldn't listen to it in the morning as I was driving because it would have put me to sleep or it would have made me mad and ruined my day. Like, I had to put it on and basically let my 4-year-old scream in the background just so I could pay attention to something. And
Yeah,
you should
that's how
never
I
have
did.
a book like that. Like, I understand that those are out there, but like you could have completely restructured this book, done an entirely different storyline, put as much information in this book, maybe even more, and still had a duology that would have grabbed people.
Mm.
Like, I mean, Goodreads, it's a 3.95 star rating. And I
Out of
understand
5.
stars don't really, yeah, like, I understand stars don't really, like, mean a whole heck of a lot. And there's, like, 35,000 people who have rated it. But, like, how is this rated so high? What
I mean,
aspect of this book am I missing?
Yeah, I missed it too. I mean, some
You
people,
know?
different strokes, different folks. I mean, I'm sure people hated some of the other ones we've read, but yeah, I'm with you. I just don't think. I think what I agree with Suriname. The magic was a missed opportunity.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
magic added a little bit to the plot. It actually helped her find the tomb, but it was a missed opportunity. You could do a lot more with that magic, right? But yeah, I think to your point, it's just it was slow. The characters just made me mad. And this
Mhm.
book actually got me back into podcasts because when I would be walking the dog and I was like, I just don't feel like getting frustrated right now. And then I
Mhm.
should listen to something else because I think there are times when a book should frustrate you if that's the point, but
Mhm.
not the whole book.
Right.
And again, I wasn't frustrated with like it was the things that she had written into the book, the events that were happening were just frustrating. And your main character never ever she never won anything, really. She goes through this whole book constantly
Idiot.
well, she goes through this whole book constantly getting, like, stopped or derailed or and nothing ever comes up good for her.
Right.
And it's frustrating. It's just very frustrating.
Mhm. I definitely agree. I had to listen to it. I listened to it on my lunch break at work, but it was because I was also playing my little phone game that I love. And
Hold on.
or if I
Is
was
it is
doing
it still is it still, the dots? 2
Mhm.
2 dots? Is
It's
that still
still
the
bricks and balls.
bricks and balls? Didn't you used to play the dot game too? Like the 2
Yes.
dots or something? Okay, but bricks and
Yeah.
balls is still the one you okay.
Yeah.
Good
So
for you.
I was also thank you. I was also focusing on something else, or I was doing a mindless task at work, like just signing paperwork or stuff. But I couldn't, like, it couldn't be the focus. Like, I couldn't listen to it while I drove because I would
Yeah.
just be falling asleep.
How many pages is this book?
I don't know because I don't have
404.
physical.
404.
See,
a
that's
long
why I
book.
think the audiobook was just read so slow because there's no reason that should have been 13 hours.
18.
And I had to 18. I had to put it on like speed 1.4 or 1.5 because it felt like she was reading it
She did
so
read a little
slow.
slow. She did. And you know what's a real shame is if you actually ask me about the premise of the book, I think the premise is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Her parents go missing. She has to travel to a country she's never been to in the late, what was it, 19th century, alone. And, with magical artifacts in the desert. Like, if those three things are a recipe for a really good story, I just feel like the execution was underwhelming.
Agreed.
So that's my review. What scale do we do for the? What do we? Do we do 5?
We do 5 for
acorns
overall.
and then 10
Yeah.
for the sex scenes.
Yeah.
Well, how do we do? Who cares? That's how we do it. So let's just do sex. Should I give it another 6?
No. I would be so
Uh,
mad.
that-
1.
There's no
I mean,
acorns.
no
No acorns for me.
acorns, I
No
mean-
acorns for me on this one. Because there's, like you said, nothing. There's some dark crypt groping, and that's it.
Which usually all about, but this one made me
Normally-
uncomfy.
Normally, if there's some dark crypt groping, I'm like, okay, all right,
I'm
let's see
in.
where
I'm
this is going.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What
not
about you,
this
Blue?
time.
How'd you enjoy
Um,
since the sex is in there, how'd you enjoy the romantic aspects of this book, I guess?
Modern sex is 0 acorns. However, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 acorns for period
Sex.
closed doors. Period closed doors appropriateness.
8 out of 10, period sex. That's what Blue
I
Mills
know.
says.
I was literally like, did I miss that chapter?
Historical
Yeah.
fiction period. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, they really did nail the whole priety thing, I guess, and just
Until he
being-
started touching her nipple in the dark.
again, they
But-
thought they were going to die.
Yeah. No.
All right, so overall book then. Let's see. I'm gonna Suriname. Why don't you go first?
2.5.
Okay. Blue.
I ranked it as a 2 on Goodreads, and I felt like I was being generous. So I think I might go 1.5.
Yeah, I was going 1.5 acorns.
But if
For
you
myself,
want a whole number, I'll go 2.
I don't care
See-
about whole numbers. I like doing half because it actually makes our 5-star rating a 10-star rating. But yeah, I was thinking 1.5. I didn't really enjoy it. It had parts I liked. Like I said, the premise I thought was good, and it had some interesting parts, and the last 4 hours actually were pretty good. It's just they lost me before I got there.
Mhm.
There was just too much filler, I think.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
2.5 is not a bad rating, actually. I was expecting worse from you, sir.
Well, so when I rate, I have like kind of a system. So like I only give 1 stars to books I don't finish.
okay.
And then 2 stars are books that I do not like, that I like finished out of spite and I don't like. 3 are books that like I enjoy. Like I read it, wouldn't read it again, but like it wasn't bad. It
Glad I did,
wasn't
yeah.
bad. Yeah. 4, a book I liked, wouldn't read again, kind of thing. And 5 is a book I love, would read again, blah, blah, blah. So that's why
Okay.
it's like a 2.5, is because I did finish it. Didn't really want to, but there were some parts that I did like.
Okay.
Like I did like the beginning. I did like the end parts of, and there
Yeah.
were some aspects of it I liked if it had been executed better.
Okay. You got any rationale for yours, Blue, or are you just going to leave it at that?
I mean, mine kind of goes along with Suriname's. Like, the spite rating is what's making me vocally say it's a 1.5
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that, like, I hate when I have to push through books. Like,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
bothers me so much. But everything, like, I really enjoyed reading about or listening to like what Cairo was about, like what the city was about. I really enjoyed the period aspect of it, the historical fiction piece. I really enjoyed the gunslinger's daughter. Like, I felt like she
Oh,
was a
yeah.
strong
We
character.
didn't even talk about them, but yeah, I liked those two characters
I
too.
also felt like they were just there, though.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
expected her to have a bigger role, and she didn't, and so I was kind of disappointed with that.
I do want to say
I
something
don't.
when you're
It
done because you
just
reminded me of something.
everything, like the fact that everybody was so two-faced and so easily willing to backstab somebody else, it really just didn't sit well with me. Like it just
Yeah.
that really brought my rating down.
Right.
What were those characters' names? There was her uncle hired this guy as a bodyguard, and he brought his daughter along. No one cared about that.
Mr. Fincastle?
Fincastle and his daughter,
Isadora?
Isadora, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember texting Blue. I was like, "Hey, I got to a part where something almost happened, and then it didn't." And because
it didn't.
there's this scene where Isadora's teaching her how to shoot, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Don't trust anybody," and then she turns the gun on her, and
I
the
know.
chapter
That
ends,
was
and I'm
pretty
like,
cool.
"What?" And then the next chapter's like, she put it down and was like, "Ha ha ha! Don't trust anybody," and walked away. And I'm like, "My God, you had something right there. Like you had me. I was hooked." And then it just
Right.
dropped it, and I was like, "Oh God!" But yeah, I remember the text. Hey, something almost happened. Oh God. Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway. All right. Well, this was the first time we've been a little, I wouldn't say overly negative. I mean, Suriname actually gave it a decent rating, halfway up the scale. But
I'm an
yeah, so
optimist.
as far as we go, we probably wouldn't read the next one, and probably wasn't really our favorite. But it's over, and we move forward. What are we reading next month? Because I am super excited. This is the first one I've gotten to pick. Can you see it? Nah. It's Bookshops and Bonedust. So this is book 2. It is the prequel to Legends and Lattes, if you've read that. So if you want to read along with us, that's what we'll be reading, Bookshops and Bonedust. It is book 2 in the series, but it takes place before it, so you don't have to have read Legends and Lattes first.
Unless you can't stand it.
Yeah, that bothers Suriname, so she just blasted through it. I've read Legends and Lattes. It's a very easy read, very enjoyable, very cozy. So it's going to be a nice change of pace, I think, from the book we just read. It's what is it like low stakes, but still interesting. So we'll be reading that in May. If you want to follow along with the Fable, and then we will be recording at the end of May for that one. And yeah, any final thoughts before we all go to bed?
Trust your belly.
Trust your belly, and don't trust anyone else.
But don't trust anyone else.
What about you, Blue?
Never give away the blue asp.
Never. Yeah. Never. And if you come across one random sheet of paper, for the love of God, send it.
Burn it.
Hold on to it.
Yeah, send it to somebody. Yeah, burn it. Actually, it's probably better if you just burn it.
Get rid of it.
All right. With that, what the river knows. We still don't really know what the river knows. But
don't know nothing.
I don't think we care. Anyway, we will see you next month as we do the recap on Bookshops and Bonedust. If they both break down and read it, we'll probably just do both. But that's the one that we're reading for May. This one shouldn't take us 2 months to get through. That should have been the first indicator, by the way. The fact that it took us 2 months to get through this book. All of us, actually. But yeah, so a little bit of a miss for me. But, 2 out of 3 ain't bad so far. So hopefully this next one will pick our spirits up a little bit. See you later.
Hey.